Come with us inside the fascinating world of real-life drama, medical breakthroughs, and human triumph every day on the Discovery Health Channel.
In the feel-good city of New Orleans, it seems like the party never ends. But for some people, having a good time means simply waking up to see another day.
I'm exposed on a daily basis.
They're not living the high life. They're fighting for survival by any means necessary, regardless of how extreme.
Fire burn, good health return.
Because anything goes in the perpetual struggle to stay alive. A sweater.
This sweater's almost like a jacket because it's made of either cotton or wool.
A pair of leather boots.
Comfortable boots, but substantial boots.
Long underwear.
She expected to be out in some weather that would require very warm clothing.
These are the few remaining possessions of a murder victim and vital clues in a real-life mystery.
Well, the clothing is extremely important.
The FBI wants to know who this victim was and how their body ended up floating in the Gulf of Mexico.
The fact that she was in a fishing net, of course, helped to secure her remains.
They've turned to forensic anthropologist Mary Manheim, also known as the Bone Lady, for some answers. Mary's work begins at the Faces Laboratory on the Louisiana State University campus in Baton Rouge.
The Faces Lab encompasses both the traditional forensic anthropology work when we set up the profile, but we also do computer enhancement work, photographic enhancement work.
This is where Mary speaks out for those who can't speak for themselves.
Bones tell a story. We just have to be able to figure out what that story is.
This is a cabinet where we keep a lot of our teaching specimens that are actually donations that have been provided to our laboratory. And I can look at this one and see how small it is, see how small the muscle lines are, and I can tell you immediately that it's a female. I can tell you that it's a white female by looking at how narrow her nasal opening is and the lateral profile of her skull. So I know a lot immediately when I pick up a skull. Not everything, but I know a lot about it.
Faces was established in 1980 for the purpose of identifying human remains.
Now this one is a small black male. Again, I can tell by the shape, the overall shape of the face.
Mary and her team work with law enforcement agencies around the country, trying to match anonymous skeletons with unsolved missing persons cases.
I can tell that he had a very prominent chin by looking at his chin bone.
She and her team have handled almost 800 cases, and only 35 of the victims remain unidentified.
Whoever placed this woman, wherever she was placed, did not expect her remains to float up.
Mary's latest case promises to be one of her most difficult.
She was small, what we would call diminutive.
As she tries to put together the pieces of a human puzzle.
Design here with a star.
Hey, Paul. That's my 14-year-old. He's coming home from school.
In 1996, Lynn Palazzo discovered the one thing every woman fears, a lump in her breast.
Well, one night I was taking a shower, and my breast started dimpling. And right then and there, I knew that definitely something was wrong. Hey, Rocky.
The lump continued to grow, and in March 2001, a biopsy revealed this mother of 5 had lobular breast cancer, a viral strand of the disease that rarely shows up on mammograms.
Oh, boy. Didn't think I would ever get it, actually. Great, Leo. That somebody else, would get that. So when I was diagnosed with it, I was very shocked.
Go get your happy fish for me. I want to see the copy.
Since her diagnosis, Lynn has fought to stay alive and to find answers.
Carly,
Come here, Carly.
come on, honey.
Because she believes there might be a connection between her cancer and where she lives. Between New Orleans and Baton Rouge, there's a 75-mile corridor.
This is a map of the industrial facilities between Baton Rouge and New Orleans.
That's known as Cancer Alley.
There are over 100 industrial facilities that emit known human cancer-causing agents into the air and land and water along the corridor, and the fence line communities are the recipients of these.
According to data compiled in the EPA Toxic Release Inventory, the level of toxic emissions in Louisiana is 5 times higher per job than the national average. 72% of them come from Cancer Alley. Environmental activists argue that the emissions are making some people sick.
Under a federal requirement, the large industrial manufacturing facilities have to report what chemicals they put out into the air, into the land, into the water. The facilities report that they put out a lot of sulfur. They also put out into the air benzene, which is a known human cancer-causing agent, xylene, which causes reproductive impacts, methyl ethyl ketone, which is a respiratory irritant. So a lot of these chemicals are put out into the air in large quantities.
If one plant releases a certain amount of benzene, it may be at a safe level, but the second plant releases a little bit and the third plant releases a little bit more, then you have a cumulative effect, and then you've got some problems there.
According to the Louisiana Tumor Registry, almost 93,000 tumor cases were reported statewide between 1994 and 1998. More than 35,000 of those, almost 38%, were concentrated in the 11 parishes of Cancer Alley.
When you look at the rates of cancer, depending on whose database you look at, it gives you different impressions.
While the Journal of the Louisiana State Medical Society reports that cancer rates along Cancer Alley are no higher than the national average, chemist Wilma Subra says the numbers don't tell the whole story.
And the reason is that when people suspect they have cancer, they'll go to one of the big cancer units in Houston, or if it's a child, they'll send them to St. Jude's in Memphis. They won't go locally, so they don't get reported.
Lynn Palazzo believes her breast cancer might be linked to a toxic chemical leak in 1995 that temporarily forced 2,800 people from their homes and caused 4,200 to seek medical treatment.
I feel like I was exposed to it. Now, whether it gave me cancer or not, I don't know. You know, because I'm exposed on a daily basis to all the dioxins that this plant puts out.
Doctors have reported clusters of breast cancer and leukemia and higher rates of certain cancers in children. But physician and former state senator Mike Robichaud says that with a latency period of up to 20 years, it is difficult to link the chemicals to the cancers.
If you're sitting next to a plant that emits a lot of benzene, and benzene causes leukemia, and you catch leukemia, who's to say that you caught it from the benzene? And as a doctor, could I say that you definitely caught it from that? I couldn't.
When she was diagnosed, Lynn's doctors put her on chemotherapy,
I need to pick up a prescription for Lynn Palazzo.
followed by 2 different drugs to try to control her cancer.
On this particular medication, the doctor wants you to take 1 tablet a day.
Okay.
Take it in the morning on an empty stomach.
Okay.
All righty?
Sounds good. Sounds very good. Thank you.
But she was in trouble.
Okay, thank you very much.
There are 4 stages of breast cancer. By the time she had the biopsy, Lynn was already at stage 3. What lay ahead was a battle to stay alive.
Good morning. Time to wake up.
At 7 a.m., 8-year-old John Bourne is beginning his day.
Good morning, Dad.
Hey, morning,
morning, John.
Every morning, John endures a complicated ritual before he can even leave the house.
Okay, I'm going to fix your medicine. He's always been sick since day one. So he's very used to feeling, I guess, bad. You about done? And I think at one point he didn't know what it was to feel good.
John's parents believe his health problems are exacerbated by living less than 5 miles from this. Burning sugarcane. Louisiana has more acres of sugarcane than any state in the nation, generating $1.76 billion a year. But come harvest time, the stalks are burned down. The smoke can cause black rain and fill the air with ash and pollutants, and some doctors believe it is harmful.
In most cases, it's enough to coat your driveway and coat your car and coat your house and coat your sidewalk and coat your windshield. It's a considerable amount of particulate matter that's released into the atmosphere with the burning.
The cane smoke, or the soot that comes off burning cane, is particularly dangerous, we think, because of the nature of it. It seems to be more toxic than other types of burning grass or burning trash, say, in somebody's backyard. And it just has a particularly caustic nature to it that really irritates the respiratory tract.
Sugarcane harvesting season runs from September to December. And John's family believes it is one of the most dangerous times of the year for their son.
So you're going to meet us at the doctor today?
Yeah.
Every morning, he must take 8 different medicines, including eye drops for an eye allergy, an antihistamine for his nasal allergies, and a bronchodilator for his asthma. John also uses a nebulizer machine to regulate his breathing.
Okay, buddy, let's go.
With the season just beginning, his parents are afraid his breathing problems could get out of control.
Okay, buckle up.
Before that happens, they want to get him to a doctor.
This special presentation of Discovery Health Channel will return in a moment.
In Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Angel Campamore is getting ready to perform a healing ritual. She's not a trained physician. She's the high priestess of a coven of witches, a group who practices what they call magic.
I'll tell people, I can't teach you the science, the practice, the theory, without teaching the spirituality behind it. Magic being the ability to work with the natural energies that are in the world to affect change in what most people call reality.
There are more than 300 witches in Louisiana who believe those changes can include the ability to heal.
I truly believe that what we do affects reality, and there's a responsibility and a burden that comes with that. So we have to be very careful that we really do know what we're doing, and that we're focused, and that our attention doesn't drift and perhaps cause some effects that we're not aware of. That works for me.
The coven will perform their ritual inside a circle, and this arch is the gateway to entering that sacred space.
Okay, let's go ahead and watch this one here. Let's put that side on first.
A woman who wants to be known only as Rose hopes the coven can heal her pain.
I have bad knees and bad legs because when I was pregnant, it pinched the nerve in my back, and I'm still waiting for it to unpinch 3 years later.
She says pain medications and physical therapy have not been able to help her.
There we go. My doctor told me that if my knees didn't get improved, that they'd have to operate, and I have to have surgery and a long, painful recuperation, and any mother does not have time to spend, 3 months in a wheelchair.
Tonight, Rose hopes to find out whether she can be saved from the scalpel and find a cure for her knee pain. At the offices of the New Orleans Division of the FBI, Special Agent Barbara O'Donnell consults with the Bone Lady, forensic anthropologist Mary Mannheim.
Okay, good. We have that all set out downstairs for you. It's on the table. We can take a look at it. Great. Whatever.
As the head of the Faces Lab, Mary helps law enforcement agencies bring the dead back to life.
And so I think there's a very good chance that someone could have even have made that for that woman, which would be very important.
In February 1999, a fishing boat crew discovered a decomposed body in the Gulf of Mexico. But the FBI couldn't identify who it was.
And then Mary was asked to assist and take it to the next step, which is to analyze the bones, the skeletal structure.
Using x-rays of the body, Mary confirmed the sex and age of the victim.
We came up with the age range of about 45 to 55 years of age, white female, approximately 5'3" to 5'4", weighing somewhere between 135 and 140 pounds.
Based on skull x-rays, Mary made further deductions about who this woman was and how she lived.
This white female had extensive dental work, a lot of crowns on her front teeth, porcelain crowns, and had a considerable number of fillings, as you can see from the side view here. So you can look at all kinds of things to suggest the socioeconomic level of an individual.
Mary also found 2 old fractures in the woman's left leg, another potential clue to her identity.
These are healed breaks, perhaps from an accident, a fall, or something, and she lived with these for probably a considerable period of time. The reason I know this is that she had problems with her right knee, which suggested she may have favored the left leg, may even have walked with a limp.
The bones only tell part of the story.
Well, it just doesn't have the look of what you normally see.
And Mary is hoping this woman's clothes will tell the rest.
Anything, but doesn't that look homemade to you?
This person was dressed for going out somewhere in the cold.
In our wool. It's heavy. It's very heavy.
She had on long underwear. She had on a very warm acrylic outfit. And then she had a very heavy sweater on top of that. In addition to that,
Mary is particularly intrigued by the unusual weaving in this sweater.
It's very thick. It doesn't have any kind of tie or anything around it, but it is fairly substantial, so this is a person who would have felt she had to have something, you know, fairly substantial to keep her warm.
She's also paying close attention to this necklace.
This is a distinctive little necklace. It's a little butterfly design with a little blue lapis stone in the center of it. There's little diamond-like chips on the outside. It's rather worn on the back side, which would suggest to me she may have had it for a while.
If the FBI can track any of these unique clothes or jewelry items back to their source,
Because something like that could be traceable.
they might be able to put a name to the victim.
Just take a quick look at these.
But so far, those clues haven't been enough to make a positive ID. So the FBI asked Mary to go one step further by giving this dead woman a new face. The natural beauty of rural Louisiana has lured people away from big cities like New Orleans. But some people who live here believe this landscape disguises a potential health threat. Pollution from chemical companies.
What's represented here are all the waste dumps, hazardous waste dumps, and what we call garbage dumps, what we use to dispose of hazardous waste over the years.
This area generates 25% of the nation's petrochemicals, the raw materials for everything from oil to gas to plastics.
We've been able to get 3 of these sites on Superfund, which are the worst hazardous waste sites in the country. It took 20 years from the first time EPA came in and sampled 3 sites to get them cleaned up, but at least now they're cleaned up.
As the founder of the Subra Company, an environmental consulting firm,
What do we have?
Wilma Subra is concerned about the impact these pollutants may be having on the people living near Cancer Alley.
The closer you live to a source, the better your chances are of contracting cancer. We've had incidents of breast cancer, colon cancer, lung cancer. All of these are very prevalent along the Mississippi River in Cancer Alley.
The federal government may say via OSHA that it's safe for you to have this amount of concentration of things for 8 hours a day in a regular workday, 5 days a week.
Dr. Mike Robichaud says the safety levels for emission rates at these facilities have not been thoroughly studied.
But that doesn't really apply to a residential community where people live for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
For Lynn Palazzo, the pollution issue became personal when she was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer.
I think the chemical plants play a major role in the cancer statistics in this parish here.
Hey, man.
How y'all doing?
How are you?
Dr. A.J. Suarez, Lynn's oncologist, says that from the very beginning, Lynn's cancer was unusual.
You could feel the positive lymph nodes. So once you see that, you know that you are dealing with a different animal. We're talking about something that seems to be more aggressive than usual.
Well, come on, let's go ahead and get started.
Based on Dr. Suarez's assessment, Lynn knew she was in a fight for her life.
Get your vital signs.
Okay.
Lynn needed to have a mastectomy on her right breast to remove the cancerous lymph nodes.
Go ahead and run a CBC and see what the counts are today.
But as she would soon learn, the cancer had spread more rapidly than her doctors expected.
This special presentation of Discovery Health Channel will return in a moment.
Sugarcane is an important cash crop in Louisiana. But it's also at the heart of a controversy. Whether or not burning it poses real health risks.
When sugarcane is harvested, a couple of things happen. Mold that grows on the sugarcane is released into the air, and also when they harvest and they burn sugarcane, a soot is released into the air.
While there have been no federal studies on sugarcane burning, a new independent study funded by Nichols State University in Louisiana indicates that the smoke does impact the health of some asthma sufferers.
And there's no reason for anybody to believe that the particulate matter released from burning the sugarcane leaves is less adverse than any other particulate matter that they've studied.
According to the study, in 1999, people with asthma who lived in southeast Louisiana, the area with the most sugarcane, went to the hospital twice as often during the burn season as the rest of the year.
Particulate matter in air pollution has been implicated in exacerbating bronchial asthma, exacerbating chronic bronchitis, exacerbating chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, exacerbating respiratory problems in young children.
If you inhale enough of the soot, it has a burning, irritating effect on your respiratory tract. So a lot of children and adults that live in the proximity of sugarcane fields suffer every fall when they harvest the crops.
Doctors report that a significant number of the 100,000 people exposed to the annual burning complain of sneezing, coughing, itchy eyes, conjunctivitis, or worse.
Everything from a mild irritant, like somebody blowing a little cigarette smoke in your direction, to severe respiratory distress, literally to the point of respiratory failure, you know, putting a patient in the ICU. We have about 60 this afternoon. We're going to be busy, huh? That old sugarcane's rolling them in.
Allergy specialist Dr. Brent Prather treats 500 patients who he says are especially vulnerable to the burning.
Anybody can be affected, from infants to older people and everybody in between, but anybody with borderline lung disease where their reserves are not so good, would be the most at high risk.
The sugarcane belt of Louisiana has nearly 500,000 acres of sugarcane, which is grown for the juice trapped inside these stalks.
This is what I was weaned on.
Jackie Judas is a sixth-generation sugarcane farmer who relies on many of the same techniques his family has used for years.
I always lived in the country. On a sugarcane farm, we had the animals, you know, grew most of our own food. It was, you could almost say we were pretty near self-sufficient back then. But, you know, things have changed. You know, times have changed.
Although the process of burning isn't new, Jackie says the number of people living near the fields has increased.
50 years ago, burning of sugarcane was not a problem because, you know, the population wasn't near as concentrated in this area. It was a lot more rural than it is now.
To help people like 8-year-old John Bourne, sugarcane farmers are finding alternatives to burning.
I believe there is a lot being done to reduce the amount of burning. Matter of fact, in the last 5 years, I would say the amount of burning has been reduced by at least half. At least 50% of the cane harvested today is not burnt.
Jody and John Bourne.
But many people in the region say they still see problems.
Oh, good.
Like 8-year-old John Bourne and his family, who worry that every time the sugarcane burns, he could become seriously ill.
You raised Dr. Brady, John? Huh? Yeah.
The members of this witches' coven are gathering for a healing ceremony. They start by preparing the altar, the centerpiece of their ritual.
It's simply a focus, a place to go that holds the things that symbolize what we hold sacred. It's a place to pray, to heal, to do magic.
First, they light candles.
How many does the candles last?
They believe that white candles help promote healing, while red summons energy and courage. They also have a basket of cakes, an offering to the gods they worship, and a collection of flowers from each witch, which are supposed to embody the group's collective energy.
For the most part, most of what we do in that aspect of healing is done with the hands and the will and faith and energy. It's not something that even the best of tools can do.
When the preparations are complete, the ceremony begins.
Who stands at the northern gate?
It is I, Ashkari, my lady.
Enter and be welcome.
High Priestess Angel Campamore calls 12 witches to the healing circle.
Who stands at the northern gate?
Rose, my lady.
Enter and be welcome.
Including Rose. She suffers from a pinched nerve and pain in her knees, and she hopes that Angel can heal her.
Enter and be welcome.
When the circle is complete, Angel sprinkles flowers around the perimeter.
I tread this path for the goddess,
which she believes concentrates the group's energy.
Let all who are in accord with our intent and the purpose of this rite be made welcome here this evening. Fire burn, good health return.
Now it's time for the healing part of the ceremony.
Health return. Fire burn. Good health return.
Where the witches will turn to the power of magic and faith.
Open your eyes. It's over.
Okay.
When Lynn Palazzo was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer in March of 2001, she knew she faced losing one, if not both, of her breasts.
So we're going to go ahead and start the Taxol now.
During the mastectomy on her right breast, surgeons removed and tested 18 lymph nodes.
Pain or anything, huh?
More than 10 cancerous nodes indicates a poor chance for survival.
Listen, this Taxol is going to be over 3 hours.
Lynn had 13.
Okay, I'm gonna get your pillow and your blanket, and if you need anything.
Even with all of them removed, Lynn is not cured, with a 75% chance of a recurrence.
You're getting close to the end, huh?
Yeah.
You can lean back.
Lynn was put on an aggressive course of chemotherapy after the mastectomy.
Did Ivy feel okay? If it starts burning or if you have...
And oncologist Dr. A.J. Suarez also put her on a drug that blocks estrogen because Lynn's type of cancer uses estrogen cells to multiply.
It's kind of, you know, we're trying to give her one extra therapy to see if we can prevent recurrence of her tumor.
To do what you have to do to be around for your loved ones.
She will have to stay on the estrogen-blocking drug for 5 years.
And I feel like I'm doing something to make myself healthy, and so that I could be around for my children, because they're so young yet, you know. So I definitely want to follow all the doctor's instructions and do everything I need to do to keep myself healthy and here.
Lynn now faces another major operation, followed by radiation treatments. Both could determine whether or not she wins the battle against breast cancer.
This special presentation of Discovery Health.
Deep in the woods, outside Baton Rouge, Angel Campamore and healer Jason Sloan are about to perform a healing ritual on Rose, a ceremony they perform for free.
I'm here for my knees and my legs, because it's getting very difficult to get up and down the stairs and to pick anything up. My wrists, and especially my elbows, have been giving me a great deal of problems.
First, Rose ties knots in this cord, which represent her chronic pain. The cord is burned to symbolize the end of Rose's pain. Then, Jason feels for weak spots in Rose's energy, which he says he can detect as hot, cold, or prickling sensations.
Is this your plantar surface right now?
Jason says that he can mentally bolster Rose's energy with his own
Privileged information.
and reduce her pain.
I say cramping is a dull ache or is it a sharp stabbing pain?
As in, my toes are curling up.
Okay.
Jason says he feels a disturbance that suggests Rose may have a bigger problem than her knees, an irregular heartbeat.
That still worries me a little bit. Of the heart.
It's a congenital defect, yeah.
Yeah.
Jason wants to raise the energy there, but Angel feels he could go too far.
Okay, I don't think we can safely work anymore. Not there.
The ceremony is almost at an end, and soon the coven will find out if tonight's healing ceremony was successful. Sugarcane burning is a way of life in Louisiana, but it may be hurting some of the local residents. Like 8-year-old John Bourne, whose family lives just 5 miles from a sugarcane mill.
It's a horrible odor that comes from the mill. And there's a lot of pollution from the mill, a lot of smoke.
Hey, Jody.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey, John.
Allergy specialist Dr. Brent Prather says that John is particularly vulnerable to the smoke because of his asthma and allergies.
Looking back on his records for at least the last 4 years, he's had an increase in respiratory symptoms every fall, September, October, November, December. And part of that, I think, is due to his living right in the heart of the sugarcane farming area.
Okay, and he's on all his maintenance meds?
Yes.
He's on Advair?
2 weeks ago, John had a sinus infection. Now he needs a checkup.
Deep breath.
look up for me?
To find out if he's healthy enough to face another season of sugarcane burning.
That's great. Have they been cutting the cane and burning a little bit? Mm-hmm. He does have
In June 1996, John's respiratory problems became so severe he nearly died from pneumonia.
Open wide for me, John.
Dr. Prather believes this season's sugarcane burning could put him at risk for another serious illness.
But you have a lot of mucus in your chest and your sinuses.
But there's not much he can do to protect John from the effects of the smoke.
Just make sure you're drinking more water. Try to get as much fresh air as you can, and when they're cutting the cane and when they're burning the cane, go the other direction. You stay well, all right? I want you to keep taking those meds and drinking lots of water.
Water will help minimize his throat inflammation, and allergy and asthma medicine should make it easier to breathe.
Watch it now, you know it's wet.
But before the year is out, John will face another burning season. His parents will have to closely monitor both his breathing and his allergies.
Careful.
The fact is, John's breathing problems may persist for the rest of his life.
He'll always have to, I think, be on medicines. He may consider moving away from this area because it is really, you know, heavy air that you have to breathe every day.
Come on in, John. Time for supper.
But his mother says John won't let that stop him.
He's, you know, getting older, and he knows, you know, his good days and bad days. But he's well-adjusted. Overall, he's a happy-go-lucky child. He holds his own, and he gets by, so I'm sure he'll be fine, but it won't be like a typical child with no allergies.
Good.
At the Faces Lab in Baton Rouge, Mary Manheim helps to raise the dead. She's been asked by the FBI to identify the body of a woman found in the Gulf of Mexico.
We know a lot about her. We know what size she was. We know how tall she was. But we have no idea who she is. We don't have what's called a putative ID or a possible ID. So we're trying to fill in part of the puzzle, part of the mystery of the profile in order for them to be able to look to find out who that person is.
Mary works with forensic sculptor Eileen Barrow to create a three-dimensional reconstruction of the woman's head. Eileen applies clay to the skull, trying to recreate her face based on the bone structure.
We know by the width of the nasal opening how wide to make the nose.
We know by the shape of the bone in the area of the eyes how deep set to make the eye. So there are little tricks of the trade, you might say, features across the skull that help dictate what that face is going to look like.
Usually I put the eyes in fairly soon, do some of the fill-in around the eye part and the cheeks, and then I'll put the nose and the mouth in. Then I'll begin to smooth it and make it look more human.
When Eileen is done, she unveils a three-dimensional reconstruction of the dead woman. But her job isn't done yet. Eileen photographs the face and scans it into her computer, where she can add further details.
We've applied hair here, a little bit of a clothing around the neckline, but it still has a very mannequin-type look.
Then, Eileen adds the illusion of life.
Done some shading around the eyes and a little bit of highlighting, added some eyelashes and a few other highlights on the lips, a little darkening there, and just generally brought it out to look a little bit more human.
The completed picture is sent by the FBI to local police departments. Mary knows it's a long shot, but her efforts have paid off before.
This is a case from the mid-1990s.
As in the mystery of an unidentified body found in Nevada.
So we completed the facial reconstruction, and this picture here is a picture of the young man who was identified, and you can see how close the facial reconstruction is if this picture were tilted, or if his skull were tilted a little, and if we'd given him a mustache, it would be a ringer.
But Mary won't be satisfied until there's a name to go with this face.
Well, we're hoping that this, three-dimensional clay facial reconstruction will spark someone's attention, that this person, is known by people. And so we hope the facial reconstruction can help find out who she is.
This special presentation of Discovery Health Channel will return in a moment.
Feel the energy coming back.
As this witch's coven completes a healing ritual,
Come back into yourself.
High Priestess Angel Campamore delivers a final prayer.
And may all our guardians watch over each and every one of us. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
So mote it be.
So mote it be. Doing okay? Oh, yeah, I'm doing beautifully.
Rose was bothered by a pinched nerve and knee pain, but now she says they're gone.
Because you are wonderful. There's no pain now. So it's like I got my spiritual booster shot that hopefully for another 6-7 months will help along with everything else I'm doing.
The real test will come in the days ahead.
I've had healing done on them, and not only have they not gotten any worse, they've gotten better. And my doctor is absolutely astonished over the fact that, I'm not stuck in a wheelchair at this moment. So as long as it works, I'm not going to argue with it.
For Angel, healing by witchcraft is only the beginning of the long journey to good health.
The ritual was very effective. And my biggest hope for it is that the effects won't be temporary, that it won't be seen as an easy fix. And any doctor, I think, would probably tell you it's never one pill or one surgery and suddenly you're perfect. Now this your sacred flame. It's one of many steps. So I hope that's what it is for all the people who are here tonight, is the first or second sometimes of one of many steps to good health and good balance.
It's pretty good today. No problem.
So far, Lynn Palazzo has survived third-stage breast cancer, but it's already cost her one of her breasts, and her treatment isn't over.
Go for pass, quick.
When she's done with chemotherapy, she faces a series of 30 radiation treatments.
Ooh, almost.
Then she'll undergo an operation to remove her left breast.
Mom just told me today he wants me to play varsity football.
Dr. Suarez says these are necessary measures because the risk of a reoccurrence is as much as 75%.
He wants me to play with him.
Well, we have time to think about that. I'm going to continue all the medical treatments that I have to, but I think with medicine and spiritual guidance and faith that I feel very, very positive that I'm cured.
I'm coping as well as she's coping. If she's doing well, I'm doing well. I try to hold up for her. If she needs help, I give her an arm to lean on, I give her a shoulder to cry on. And I try not to let her see me cry.
Lynn believes she might be paying the price for living too close to Cancer Alley.
Oh, that's pretty, Carly.
Oh, thank you, Carly.
That really is pretty. Thank you.
But she hopes she will continue to be a cancer survivor and beat the odds stacked against her.
I love you. I love you too. I'm very much at ease and much more peaceful than I was before. I find now I have more peace in myself to be able to handle it and to be able to deal with it and to take it in the right direction.
It's a direction fueled by determination and the will to survive. The same emotions which flow from the heart of New Orleans to the Louisiana bayou. In the daily struggle to stay alive.